What happens when a single accusation ignites a fire that consumes an entire town's trust? In the quiet hamlet of Willow Creek, where the air carried the scent of pine and the hum of neighborly gossip, a storm was brewing. It began at a town meeting under the flickering lights of the community hall, where Karen Whitmore, with her sharp tongue and sharper ambition, stood to speak. Her words would unravel lives, expose secrets, and leave scars that no one saw coming. Karen was no stranger to attention. With her perfectly pressed blouses and a smile that masked her disdain, she had a knack for stirring the pot. That evening, the topic was the town's budget for elderly care, a sore spot for Willow Creek's aging population. Karen, ever the opportunist, seized the microphone. "We're wasting resources on burdens like old Mrs. Evelyn," she declared, her voice slicing through the murmurs. "She's hoarding community funds while contributing nothing but complaints." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn Harper, the town's beloved grandmother figure, sat in the front row, her frail hands trembling. I, Lila Harper, Evelyn's granddaughter, felt my blood boil. Karen didn't know it, but she just crossed a line that would cost her dearly. Evelyn wasn't just any elderly woman. She'd raised me and my sister, Nora, after our parents died in a car crash when I was 10. Her modest home was our sanctuary, filled with the smell of her lavender scones and the warmth of her stories. To hear Karen call her a burden was like a knife to the heart. I wanted to storm the stage, but Nora, sitting beside me, grabbed my hand. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, glinted with something dangerous. "Let her dig her own grave," Nora whispered. I should have known then that my sister, the criminal defense lawyer, had a plan. The meeting descended into chaos. Some defended Evelyn, recounting her years of volunteering at the library and knitting blankets for newborns. Others, swayed by Karen's charisma, nodded along, their whispers venomous. Karen doubled down, claiming Evelyn's hoarding of subsidized housing was why young families couldn't afford homes. It was a lie, but Karen had a way of making lies sound like gospel. As the crowd argued, I noticed a stranger in the back, a man in a gray coat, scribbling notes. He didn't belong here. Willow Creek was small, everyone knew everyone. Who was he? Days passed, and Karen's words festered. Flyers appeared around town, echoing her accusations. Evelyn Harper, a drain on our future. I found one taped to Evelyn's mailbox, and her face crumpled when she saw it. "I never wanted to be anyone's burden," she whispered, her voice breaking. I hugged her, promising justice, but inside, I was terrified. Karen was relentless, rallying a group of supporters who began petitioning to cut elderly benefits. The town was splitting, and Evelyn was at the center of the storm. Nora, however, was eerily calm. She spent hours on her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. "What are you doing?" I asked one night, catching her in Evelyn's kitchen with a stack of legal documents. "Research," she said, her smile cryptic. I didn't press her. Nora had always been the strategist, the one who turned chaos into order. Growing up, she defended me from bullies with nothing but words and wit. Now, I sensed she was building a case, but against who? Karen? Or something bigger? The twist came at the next town meeting a week later. The hall was packed, the air thick with tension. Karen stood again, this time with a petition signed by 50 residents. "We demand a vote to reallocate funds," she proclaimed, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Evelyn wasn't there, she'd been too humiliated to attend, but I was, and so was Nora. As Karen spoke, the man in the gray coat slipped in again, his presence sending a chill down my spine. Then Nora stood, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Karen Whitmore," she began, "you've accused Evelyn Harper of hoarding resources. But let's talk about your own record." The crowd hushed. Karen's smile faltered. Nora held up a folder, her expression cold. "As a criminal defense lawyer, I've done some digging. Did you know, Karen, that your real estate company has been buying up subsidized housing plots under shell companies? Or that you've been evicting elderly tenants to flip those properties for profit?" The room erupted. Karen stammered, her face paling. "That's slander," she cried. But Nora was relentless. She presented documents, public records, emails, and bank statements showing Karen's company had profited millions while displacing seniors like Evelyn. The man in the gray coat, it turned out, was a private investigator Nora had hired. He'd been tracking Karen's dealings for weeks, ever since her first jab at Evelyn. The crowd turned on Karen, their anger palpable. She fled the hall, her empire crumbling. But the story didn't end there. The investigators' findings sparked a larger probe. Karen's company was linked to a statewide scandal, and she faced charges of fraud and elder abuse. Willow Creek rallied around Evelyn, raising funds to repair her home and honor her contributions. For a moment, it felt like justice. Nora was hailed as a hero, and I was proud until the final twist hit. One night, as I helped Evelyn to bed, she confessed something that shattered me. "Lila," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I knew about Karen's schemes." I froze. Evelyn explained she'd overheard Karen bragging about her real estate deals at the library months ago. Too scared to confront her, Evelyn had told Nora, hoping she'd handle it quietly. "I didn't want the town to tear itself apart," Evelyn said, tears in her eyes. "But I let it happen." The weight of her words crushed me. Evelyn, our rock, had carried this secret, blaming herself for the town's division. Nora had known too, but instead of telling me, she'd chosen to dismantle Karen publicly, risking everything for vengeance. I felt betrayed, not just by Karen, but by the two people I loved most. They'd protected me from the truth, but at what cost? The town was healing, but Evelyn's spirit was broken. She stopped baking, stopped smiling. She wasn't a burden, but she believed she was. Months later, Karen was convicted, her name a stain on Willow Creek's history. Evelyn passed quietly in her sleep, her heart too heavy to carry on. At her funeral, the town mourned, but I couldn't shake my anger. Nora tried to explain she wanted to protect Evelyn's dignity, to let her live without fear, but it didn't erase the pain. The sister I'd idolized had played a game of chess with people's lives, and we'd all paid the price. As I stood by Evelyn's grave, the scent of lavender lingering in the air, I realized the true cost of Karen's words. They hadn't just humiliated Evelyn. They'd exposed the fragility of trust, the cracks in our family, and the bitterness of justice. Willow Creek would rebuild, but I'd lost something irreplaceable. The town saw a victory, but for me, it was a heartbreak dressed as triumph. Nd.